Hey guys, today we are going to do a spy revolver tier list based on my opinions and experiences with the revolvers. So let's get it started. But first I should mention that a spy's main weapon is or should be his knife, unless you are a gun spy, but that's another thing. The revolvers are there mostly for last solution kind of situations, when you miss a step and the enemy turns, or when you are spotted from afar, or if simply the enemy has low HP and you just need to take the revolver out and finish him. The spy has 5 revolvers to choose from, each with its advantages and disadvantages. We'll start with the first one, the default revolver, which has been in the game since its launch in 2007. In my opinion, the revolver should be in the very good tier, since it's very reliable, does a pretty decent amount of damage, and it's good for most situations. So whether you have a more sneaky playstyle or you prefer to go all guns blazing like a gun spy, as it is the get-to-go revolver for gun spies, since it has no downsides. Although I consider it to be very good, the revolver is not as used as you would expect, since there are a few better options that can offer some other advantages, but we'll talk about that later. The next revolver to be added in the game was the Ambassador way back in 2009. The thing with this revolver is that we have minus 15% damage penalty, 20% slower firing speed, and no random crits, but you can headshot people. Before its nerf years back, this was the get-to-go revolver for lots of spy mains, since you could headshot people from across the map with it, but since the nerf, the distance is also a factor that has to be taken into consideration while using it, because if a target is far away and you headshot the player with it, it will not do great amount of damage anymore, so the Ambassador is good mostly for close combat, as the revolver should be mostly. The thing is that you need crazy amount of hours of practice to be able to be good with it, and in the long run it doesn't really pay off in my opinion, since there are a lot of better options out there that offer more while requiring less. So in my opinion the Ambassador is just decent. It gets the job done, and if you have thousands of hours of practice with it, you will be nearly unstoppable. But as I said, there are really better revolvers out there that are simply better. The next revolver is the L'Étranger. I think this is by far the most used revolver in the game. I believe 8 out of 10 spies will use it. But why? Well, let's just take a look at the stats. Plus 40% cloak duration, plus 15% cloak on hit, and minus 20% damage penalty. So you get to be invisible as long as you want with it if you know the ammo pack locations, and you also get cloak regain if you shoot and hit enemies with it. And the only downside is the minus 20% damage penalty, which is pretty meaningless, since as I said in the introduction, the revolvers are not there to do crazy amount of damage, but rather use it as a last resort weapon or to finish off low HP enemies. I think you understand by now why this is going to be in the perfect tier, since it is pretty perfect for what a revolver's role really is. Plus it helps you to be more effective as a spy in general, since it gives you crazy amount of cloak time just for having it equipped. Yes, it does less damage in comparison with the basic revolver, but in 9 out of 10 situations it won't really make a difference. But the cloak duration will always make a difference, since cloaking is one of Spy's most important abilities. You can always finish off enemies or kill a full HP Razor sniper. It will just take 4 shots of L'Étranger in comparison with the 3 required shots with the revolver. The last 2 remaining revolvers were both added in the summer of 2011. The Enforcer was the first released out of the 2 in June. Back then it was a pretty interesting and useful revolver. If I remember correctly, it had plus 20 damage bonus while undisguised and 20% slower firing speed. Back in 2011-2012, when I first started playing TF2, the Enforcer and the Ambassador were the most used revolvers. Almost everybody was using these for the headshot ability and the damage bonus while undisguised. But as all good things come to an end, so did the usefulness of the Enforcer, since it got nerfed so bad that it goes in the not worth using tier. The name's pretty obvious, isn't it? It makes almost no sense to use it nowadays, since it is worse in any way than the other revolvers, and the 20% damage bonus while disguised is not worth it. The last revolver the spy ever got was added in August 2011. At the time it was not that great, since it got you crit shots only for the SEP buildings. That means if the enemy team main got no NG, then it was useless, having only the damage penalty and no plus. Since then it got buffed and nowadays it's a beast. You get a crit for everything you do. Sep a building, crit. Stab someone, crit. Breathing air, crit. The only downsides are the minus 15% damage penalty and no random crits. All I can say is that these downsides do not matter at all, especially the damage penalty, since it's not significant for a revolver and you get crits anyway. The real downside is that you will miss 5 of 6 crit shots every time. It doesn't matter that you have the greatest aim and that you never miss, if you have crits you will miss. In my opinion, the Diamondback is also on the perfect tier since it has no real downsides and it offers you free crits for everything you do as Spy. I think it's the second most used revolver these days, second only to the Infinite Cloak Revolver aka the L'Étranger. Some may say that the Diamondback is broken and it needs a serious nerf. I don't know about that, that's a topic for another video, but if it was that broken then it would be used a lot more than it actually is. This revolver is no doubt a beast if used by a spy with good aim or simply a great revolver if used by an average spy. Nonetheless, you cannot go wrong with this revolver. That's pretty much all guys. Let me know in the comment section what do you think about the tier list, do you agree with it, what would you change about the list. Thank you very much for watching and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed this video or my other videos. Bye bye.
My appreciation, amigo.